For our first story, we have my dad's, male 50, wife makes me, female 26. Pretend I'm not his link. This is a bit of a complicated story, but I'll keep it as straightforward as possible. I, female 26, was around 4 to 5 when my parents divorced. I grew up with my mom, stepdad, and younger siblings, while my dad, male 50, moved to another country, remarried, and we eventually lost contact. Without going into too much detail, it's a 3 to 5 business day explanation. It was largely due to his new relationship. Fast forward to recently, I moved to the same country to live with my partner, and I decided to reach out to my dad. We reconnected, but under humiliating conditions. My dad's wife demands that I'm introduced as a family friend to their kids, who don't know I'm their sister. As you can imagine, visiting is always awkward. I can't call him Dad or talk much about myself or my family because my stepmom dislikes hearing about it. This New Year's, my partner and I were invited over to their house for lunch. It was going okay, aside from my stepmom's mom ignoring my partner the whole time, until one of their kids loudly announced, "Everyone here is family except OP and her partner." I felt so embarrassed and excluded, especially knowing that everyone at the table was already aware of my real identity but was told not to acknowledge it. To make it worse, my stepmom chimed in with, "Well, what about the dogs?" And my sibling replied, "Yeah, but I meant only we have this last name." That stung, especially since I'm the Og born with their last name. This reminded me of a previous gathering where everyone knew me as my father's daughter, but I now realize everyone there likely knew the secret sibling situation and had been told not to acknowledge it. Thinking back, it makes me feel delayed embarrassment, like I was the only one not in on this unspoken rule. It's left me feeling deeply hurt. I love the kids, and they really enjoy seeing me. They're always asking when I'll visit again. My stepmom insists I visit more to keep the kids happy, and I'm questioning why I should keep sacrificing my dignity for their comfort. I'm debating whether to confront my dad about how excluded I feel or to cut ties altogether. I don't want to lose all contact with the kids, but I also want to stand up for myself, as this situation has opened up my unhealed abandonment issues. The silver lining here is how supportive my partner has been through all this. Luckily, he is my family here. And soon, we'll be married and can have our own matching last names too. Smiley face. That's the end of our first post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "Just tell your sisters and brothers the truth, and if stepmom gets mad, so be it. What are they going to do, cut you out again? You already know what that's like." Our second commenter says, "No father who would allow this is worth tolerating this for." Our third commenter says, "Absolutely tell your dad you're no longer going along with this nonsense. Be prepared for the possibility that he picks his crazy wife over his daughter." For our second story, we have I, 27 female, am embarrassed by my boyfriend's 29 male social ineptness, and it's starting to stress me. Link me start by saying that when my boyfriend and I are alone, it's great. He's present, engaged, and I love spending time with him and our conversations. I feel so comfortable with him, more so than any other person in my life. We share similar interests, and we genuinely have fun together. I love him, and in those moments, it feels perfect. But things change when other people are around. For lack of a better word, he embarrasses me. We've been together for 7 years, but he's only met my family a handful of times because I'm constantly stressed about how he'll behave. When we're with others, he says things that make me cringe. He engages in political talk when it's clearly not the right setting, monopolizes conversations, can't seem to read the room, and constantly makes everything about himself. For example, if someone shares a story, he'll immediately turn it back to something about him without realizing it. He even forgets basic manners sometimes. He will talk the same to his friend versus my mom, for example. The worst part is, he doesn't seem to realize he's doing it. I brought this up multiple times, and while he always apologizes and says he doesn't notice, it keeps happening. It feels like a never-ending cycle. At this point, I'm starting to feel stressed whenever we have to socialize as a couple, and it's making me question if I can deal with this for the rest of my life. I don't know how to bring it up in a way that might actually lead to change, or if that's even possible. Has anyone else dealt with a similar situation? How do you handle this without hurting your partner or feeling resentful? That's the end of our second post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, he might be on the spectrum and be trying hard to relate and making an utter hash of it. I can relate. If he is, then you need to tell him outright. Not in a horrible way, but people like myself on the spectrum don't do subtle, and we don't do hints. We truly don't even notice them. I'm at the point in my life where I'm fully aware of myself and tell everyone that if I do or say something that makes them uncomfortable, just to tell me. I won't take offense, if it's done nicely and out of love, and am grateful someone cares enough about me to pull me up when I go off on one of my tangents. Our second commenter says, checks so many marks for neurodivergence, ASD in particular. Our third commenter says, I do this and I have ADHD. I don't mean to, and I can tell that I annoy people. I try my best to keep it in check in situations that require it for myself and my partner. And this is the most important, I also spend time socially with people who get me, like me, and don't at all seem annoyed by me. It's the best. And they never make me feel like too much, even if they are giving feedback to rein it in. I can't imagine what life would be like if I only had to be around people who wanted me to shrink to belong. Everyone deserves to belong somewhere. I think it makes sense, like others have said, that he has given feedback on the impact of this behavior in those settings. It's helpful to know and respect those boundaries. I also sincerely hope he has spaces where people get him, too. And, if you're not that person, and his manners annoy you and you resent him, I think that's not a good match for either of you. For our last story, we have, how do I 28 female deal with my best friend's fiance 39 male comments about my pregnancy without losing the friendship. I've 28 female had a heart condition called congenital aortic stenosis since I was 10 and had to undergo open heart surgery 3 years ago to replace the valve. The surgery wasn't easy and my doctor told me I should wait 1 to 2 years before trying to get pregnant so my heart had enough time to fully recover. My husband and I waited even longer just to be safe. Her fiancé know all about this as they've been together even before my surgery. My best friend and I have known each other for over 9 years and she's like a sister to me. A week ago, my husband and I told them that we're expecting and they seemed genuinely happy for us and invited us to dinner to celebrate 2 days ago. During the dinner, her fiancé kept asking questions like, "Why did you want to get pregnant so badly?" I answered with something about how my mom's love made me feel secure and I wanted to give that same love to my child. He just laughed at my response and said, "But how do you know your kid will love you back? What if you're pregnant with one of those kids from documentaries who end up hurting their parents?" He kept pushing. Asking why I'd take the risk when my husband already loves me. My husband and I tried to explain that it isn't the same, but he kept going, saying things like, "What if your kid ends up not loving you or something?" My best friend tried to get him to stop, but he just wouldn't. I got the feeling that he thinks I went through the surgery and everything just because I wanted to have a child and somehow has a problem with that. After we left, she texted me 2 times to make sure I wasn't mad at her and called me later to tell me that her fiancé didn't mean anything and he was just trying to be funny and that he probably wouldn't apologize. My husband thinks we should distance ourselves from her fiancé and he even suggested doing the same with my best friend, at least for a while. I love her and don't want to lose her over this, but I'm also upset and confused by her fiancé's behavior. Edit. For those who don't know, it's a narrowing of the aortic valve, which makes it harder for blood to flow from the heart to the rest of the body. I spent most of my teenage years dealing with symptoms like chest pain, fatigue, dizziness. That's the end of our last post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "Try to maintain some contact with this friend so that if she ever realizes her fiancé is a giant asshole, she'll have a friend who will listen. But don't set yourself on fire to keep her warm." Our second commenter says, "I would let your friend know that while you're not mad at her, you're upset at her partner's comments. Explain it makes you concerned. He'll say things like that again next hangout." Our third commenter says, "I'm sorry, but there's no way that man meant his comments in any other way than how you perceived them. If your best friend doesn't see that, she is almost as bad as he is. Maybe he doesn't want kids himself, but your friend does and he's trying to make some point to her at your cost. Or he's just generally an AH. Since she's already told you not to expect an apology, she's ready to run interference for his despicable behavior. If you really, really want to keep this friendship, only meet her without him from now on. Otherwise, he'll do his best to suck the joy from your pregnancy and parenthood. I wish you all the best for your pregnancy and safe delivery." That's all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.